welcome to Message in a Vodcast. We have once again been a little bit late on our Vodcast recordings. We've spaced them out a little bit longer. So hopefully everybody's been looking forward to this one. I know I have. Hi, Chris and David. How are you?
Good.
Very well. Good afternoon.
Good. Before we start, I want to say another huge thank you to our friends at Blue Amp Plus who help us do this vodcast, edit it, make it look great, make us look as good as we can look. So big shout out to Blue Amp Plus and the whole team there. We really appreciate you guys working with us on this. How are you doing today, guys?
Good. Yeah, good.
Good. It's already the month of May. I will tell you in advance, I'm very excited for our pop culture pop quiz later. I think it's going to be a good one for you guys. But before we get to that, I want to start as usual with some of your favorite stories from the last few weeks, guys. Chris, maybe we can start with you and let us know what's been going on.
Sure. So this is actually a fun story that I wrote last week, and it's related to Wendy's move into the breakfast category in Canada. It's obviously it's a category that's got some pretty well established players in with the likes of Tim Hortons, McDonald's, and Starbucks, and this is kind of Wendy's first sort of concerted effort in this space. You'd think on the surface it seems like a pretty difficult challenge to break through against some well established brands which have got sort of both history and sort of quote unquote breakfast credentials on their side. But, this is a category that's a breakfast sandwich category is valued around $700 million in Canada. So it's no joke. Sorry, I'll keep the egg puns at a minimum. But Wendy's is sort of leaving the egg battle to the other guys. And I guess probably not surprisingly for a chain that gave us a burger called the Baconator. It's focusing on bacon as its point of differentiation in the category. So, and it's doing that with a callback to what's probably almost certainly, I would say, probably the most famous campaign in its history, which is "Where's the Beef?" That 1984 campaign was, a bona fide ad classic. It spawned spoofs. It spawned a board game, bumper stickers. A song by a Nashville singer with the awesome name of Coyote McLeod. And perhaps most
from the archives.
Right? It's just fantastic. And you can find the YouTube link to that song in my story.
Amazing.
Perhaps most famously, it was used by Democratic candidate Walter Mondale against his rival, I believe it was Gary Hart, during the primary debates that year. So a lot of pop culture cachet. It was, one of those sort of rare campaigns that kind of transcended advertising and sort of became sort of a part of the pop culture firmament, for want of a better word. So anyway, so this new campaign, it's kind of feels like it's very much of a piece with the sort of the current reboot craze. It's led to the revival of everything from, the revival of TV shows like Sex and the City and The Wonder Years to movies like A Star is Born and countless superhero franchises. And the McCann Canada creative team of Amy O'Neill and Bill Schaefer were sort of, I spoke with them last week and they said they were big fans of that original spot. And so that's what led them to sort of decide to pay homage to it with an almost shot for shot remake of Where's the Beef called Where's the Bacon? So like that spot, it's built around sort of three grannies, which is the word the creative team used. And they're sort of puzzling over the bacon on a competitor's breakfast sandwich. There's a lot of references to the original, to the breakfast muffin that houses the sandwich, with lines like, "It certainly is a very round muffin," which is a direct callback to the original spot. "It certainly is a big bun." So, the payoff, of course, is when one of the grannies utters the phrase, "Where's the bacon?"
Right.
It's not quite as strident as Clara Peller's in the 1984 original, but it's a pretty good interpretation of the original spot. So anyway, but despite its similarities to the original, I spoke with Liz Garrity, Chief Marketing International sort of CMO with Wendy's in Columbus, which is the chain's home, and she said that while it's designed for those people who are pop culture aficionados or can recall the original, it's obviously a callback to that spot, but it's also designed. What they're talking about is still relevant to audiences today. So, she said that her quote to me was, "The great thing about the work is that it's fun and a little bit of an Easter egg if you remember Where's the Beef or have heard of it. But if you haven't, that's okay too, because it stands alone." So, anyway, for me, it felt like one of those campaigns that brings a bit of sizzle to the advertising landscape right now.
Was that another pun? Was that another pun?
I promise. That's it.
That's it. That's it. I'm cutting you off there. Now that I'm both nostalgic and hungry, that's it. And the puns, very punny, very funny. Chris Powell.
Thank you.
I think it's gonna break. I think it's gonna do well, that one. My parents were talking about it on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they're smart to think about things that are fun for people who remember the original, but can also stand alone. Because I do vaguely remember the original, but I was only 4, so wasn't super.
Oh, way to shoehorn that reference in there.
Whenever I can get it in, guys. Whenever I can get it in. I'm a baby. I'm practically a baby here. I'm the baby of this team, which is nice.
Right.
Okay, on that note, which I'm definitely not going to cut out because I feel like it's important for everyone to know.
It's important to leave those details in.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, what has interested you over these past few weeks?
So this one isn't nearly as fun, but it's interesting, I think. It's not interesting. I don't think it's a story right now that's an immediate impact for most people in day-to-day in the industry. But it certainly, I think, has the production side of the business absolutely confounded and sort of confused about what could happen in the days and weeks ahead. And I'm talking here about the labor dispute between Actra, which is the union representing most of the commercial acting talent in Canada, and the ICA, which is the leading agency association in Canada. And the dispute is over the National Commercial Agreement, which for decades has been the contract negotiated between actors and the industry, represented by the ICA and the Association of Canadian Advertisers. So they were in negotiations for almost a year. By April last month, they were going badly. A mediator was brought in, and they determined that they were basically at an impasse, and they said there was a deadline set for April 26th. The negotiations were so bad, the ACA and ICA had split up. The ICA was negotiating on their own with Actra. They couldn't come to agreement. They were stuck on one very big issue, and that is historically signatories. This gets complicated, so I'm going to try to explain it hopefully clearly. Signatory agencies could only use Actra talent for virtually every kind of production. So if you signed on the contract with Actra, you could only use Actra talent. If you talk to the agency folks, most of them like that. They like working with Actra talent. They think they're fantastic. They think they're great. And they say they're not anti-union, but the industry has changed, and they don't want to have to use Actra talent for every single piece of content they produce. And we all know how much the machine has cranked up to produce content. They need content, all kinds of little bits and pieces of things here and there for all kinds of different media. So if they want to shoot a quick Instagram video of someone getting out of a car, they don't want to have to use Actra talent. So that's a problem. But then furthermore, due to negotiate a loophole in the contract in 2007, non-signatory agencies could use Actra talent by going through these third-party players, like payroll companies. Actra were okay with these companies being involved because it allowed international productions to come into Canada. So you have somebody wants to come in and shoot a US commercial in Toronto, and they want to use Actra talent, but they haven't signed, of course, the agreement. They work through these third parties to work with Actra. That was okay with Actra, but since then, more and more agencies, Canadian agencies, have also been able to go this route. So there was no real incentive to sign the agreement if you could have the option of using Actra talent on some projects and non-union talent on other projects. So ICA, are you following me so far?
I am. No, this is good. Yeah, no, this is helpful.
Yes.
ICA wanted to, in the negotiations, they wanted to introduce an opt-in, opt-out clause. So they wanted this. They said this was leveling the playing field, so that anyone who signs the agreement, they would be able to opt in and opt out to use Actra talent on some projects. But Actra says effectively, they were saying if you can opt in and opt out of a contract, that's not really a contract. So this is where things really broke down and bogged down. They couldn't come to agreement. It looked like as that deadline was approaching, it looked like it was going to be a lockout or a strike. And then sort of out of the blue, the ACA came back into the picture and signed a deal with Actra on their own. ICA had no idea the deal was being signed. So the upshot is the ACA and Actra now say that pending ratification of Actra membership, which I think is happening right now, as we're recording this, ACA and Actra say there is a new deal for the industry and everyone must follow this deal, follow the rules as the deal lays out. And the ICA is saying the exact opposite. That is not true. The industry does not have a deal. And so that everyone's kind of left almost, scratching their head and asking almost literally WTF, like they have no idea what this means now. There's just real confusion about how you go forward because ICA and some of the agencies say they're no longer union shops. They can hire whoever they want, non-union talent. And Actra is making sounds like they're going to try and block that from happening. And they're not going to make sure their talent won't be working with these agencies. And it's a Wild West situation. Nobody knows how they're going to go forward. How does Actra respond? What does ICA do? And it's going to be, I think it's going to be a bit of a legal mess for a little while.
Yeah. So what is, are there any next steps, Dave, right now? Like, does this have to go to litigation?
It's even clear. It sounds like it might be. If I was to guess, I think some of these agencies are going to test it and see what happens. They're going to push Actra,
right,
and dare them to react or not react.
Right.
But Actra hasn't talked to me much. I keep trying to get them to talk to me more, and I'll keep trying. So it's not clear how they'll respond. Other than there has been a notice went out saying that if ICA agencies, if they work with non-union talent, Actra doesn't want them their members to be working with those agencies anymore. So it's confusing. It's unsure. It is. Some people I talk to, and a lot of people don't want to go on the record for this thing because it's so contentious.
Yeah.
It's a wait and see. They're not sure how it's going to play out.
Right. And then speaking of contentious, and this may be, what is the feeling, whether through speaking with them or generally you're feeling sort of on the street about the fact that the ACA struck this agreement with Actra without the ICA being part of it?
So super interesting too, because the ACA negotiates the deal, signed the deal, but none of their members are signatories. The marketers aren't signatories. Actra says there's about 200 signatories to the agreement, but it's not ACA members. And as I understand, the logic there is ACA doesn't actually hire the actors. They hire the agencies hire the actors.
Right.
So the agency is the closest employer of the talent. So that's who are signatories. So it's odd in that the ACA signed the deal, but none of their members are obligated to follow it.
Right. Whereas the ICA, the reverse situation would have happened. They are closer to the actual talent, right?
Yeah. So they have been the ones that have signed it traditionally in the past. They've negotiated the deal. And it's the deal for the industry. There's only about 16 ICA members that have been signatories, but there are other agencies who are non-ICA members who are also signatories and have been traditionally.
Wow.
So the deal is negotiated for them by the ICA. So it right now it feels like there's a legal fight brewing, and that's what one agency exec said to me. It's going to be a lot of billable hours for lawyers through May as they try and figure this out. And there's already been back and forth that legal point of views have been issued, and there's a little bit of snark and some back and forth in those memos that suggest it could go on for a while.
Right. Oh, well, thank you for your coverage, Dave. It's been awesome. And I know it's been very well read, obviously something that's, very impactful happening within the industry.
It's interesting because in effect, it's not just, and this is one of the things we talked about, it's not just about the signatories, it's about the labor market for acting talent is going to be fundamentally shifted because all of a sudden there's new players who can get non-union talent who couldn't do it before, and what is the value of non-union talent versus actor talent and those kind of dynamics. So it's interesting how it could play out.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly coming out of the pandemic too. And as people are starting to get back on their feet and trying to go out and shoot more things. Well, thank you. That was amazing. And as I said, your coverage of it has been awesome too. So
fantastic coverage.
Amazing. So my pop culture pop quiz dovetails quite nicely with what we were talking about more with Chris in terms of the nostalgia, the reboot remakes. So in honor of an exciting reboot that's coming May 24th, that was supposed to come in 2019, this is Top Gun. This is
going to be down there.
Top Gun pop culture pop quiz. Yep, Top Gun Maverick is coming out May 24th. Was originally slated to come out before the pandemic and had a whole bunch of production issues, and then obviously the pandemic stuff, they didn't want to release it directly to streaming, so it's coming out in theaters May 24th. So I thought I'd ask you guys some questions, and I also thought I could bring up my age at this point, but I've already said it earlier in the cast. I assume that you might know a little bit about Top Gun. Am I right in that assumption?
Yes.
I feel pretty confident going, and not confidence, maybe a strong word. I feel pretty good going into this one. We'll see.
Right. I you know what? I was like, I'm gonna throw these guys hopefully a softball because it was such good timing with the movie coming out. So let's start.
Feel the need for speed.
Yeah, I do feel the need for speed. Good. Yeah. Good. Amazing. What year did the original Top Gun come out? Hint, it was after I was born.
84 or 86.
I'd say 86, I was going to say.
I think 86.
1986 is correct.
Yeah.
Very good, guys. This is an easy one. What is the name of Tom Cruise's character?
Maverick.
Correct. Also the name of the new movie coming out, as Tom Cruise will still, because he's oddly ageless.
Yes.
Going to be playing that role. Do you remember, because I actually do, what Maverick and Goose got in trouble for at the very beginning of the movie?
They buzzed the control tower.
For what? What was the control tower concerned about? They were telling them to come in for a reason.
Weren't they being visited by no, I don't remember.
Nope. Close. They were low on fuel and they were still doing all of their crazy spins and turns, and the control tower was telling them they were low on fuel, and they were cutting it too close. And as Maverick does, he pulls like at the end. Yeah. I mean, that's why it was such a good movie, because you never knew what was going to happen. And then somehow Tom Cruise always fixes it. This I thought was interesting. Remember, it was 1986. How much did Tom Cruise get paid for Top Gun? His salary?
$5 million.
Nope. Too high.
Too high?
Too high.
3.
Still too high, but closer.
Really?
Yeah.
2?
2. He got paid $2 million in 1986, which in 1986 was, a huge chunk of money, obviously. But now, and particularly with inflation, I'm like, oh, wow, seems positively reasonable. How much did the movie cost to make? Given that I give you kind of a hint there in terms of what Tom got paid.
So I kind of want to say expensive, but I also wonder if the military charged them because it was like an ad for the military.
It was a bit of an ad for the military. That's a good thought. I don't actually know the answer to that. I just know what the number is, but it's a good thought.
So it used to be like 100 million was like blockbuster territory, but I think that's more later, right? So I will say 50 million.
Okay. Dave, do you have a guess?
I think higher, 70.
Can I tell you, it cost $15 million to make that movie.
15 million?
1.5. Which now, to Dave's point, I'm like, makes me think, like, did the military subsidize the movie? I don't know. $15 million, of which $2 million went to Tom Cruise, as previously established. So yeah, not extraordinarily expensive to make. But again, it was 1986. It was a while ago.
Anthony Edwards and Val Kilmer got really shortchanged, I'm assuming.
Exactly.
And Kelly McGillis.
They did travel for that, right? Like that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they obviously used all the like naval ships. They had all the it didn't look like low budget production by any stretch of the imagination, but it was not overly expensive, which leads me to my final question.
Gross.
How much did it gross?
All time, or like because it's probably still grossing now, isn't it?
Yeah, this was I think it's in the first. I will double check. I feel like it was the first year, not all time, but it's a big enough number that I'm giving you a hint. It's a big enough number that even if in your head it's all time.
Oh, so and it's not domestic. It's worldwide.
It was worldwide. Yeah, worldwide.
That can make a difference on your guess, Chris.
Chris is like, really? I'm like, oh God.
Domestic versus worldwide, sure.
No, this is worldwide.
I have no idea. I'm gonna say 250 million.
It's not a bad guess. Not a bad guess. A little low.
I was gonna say 500 million.
So I'll split the difference with you. It was 356 million.
356.
But considering it cost $15 million to make, I mean, it's made sense that they're coming out with Maverick here. So hopefully this one will be.
We clearly need to make our own Top Gun, is what.
That's obviously, this is like our obvious next step. But yes, I figured this would be a good one for you guys, and I'm kind of pumped to see stuff happening in theaters. I just was reading about Doctor Strange kind of killing it at the box office, so it seems like there's still some hope for people going to theaters if it's a big enough spectacle. And I gotta think Top Gun might be a big enough spectacle for people to go.
I think.
Or the Downton Abbey movie. Which is what I thought you were going to talk about.
I mean, that's obvious for anyone who's been watching this. I mean, that's an obvious one for me, but not sure people would.
You were going.
Yeah, but even for me with Downton Abbey, would still prefer to watch from home. Top Gun Maverick, I can see the appeal of watching it with a big group of people with the sound and all of the things. So, well, thank you guys. That was a fun one. I thought that would be a fun one for you guys. Sometimes it's fun when I really know I'm going to challenge you, but also sometimes it's fun when I know that you're probably going to know some of these answers. So that was quite quick too when you know the answers, which is nice. So we will see you guys in another 2 weeks to chat more about what's cool and interesting going on in the world of marketing, media, and advertising in Canada. And as always, I say it all the time on my Monday newsletters, but get in touch with us. If you have anything you want us to chat about or think we should be thinking about, feel free to get in touch with any one of us. You can find our contact info on the website. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.